Good morning. Hope you guys are good today. Yep, it's me presenting on behalf of Dr. Sunshine Sylvia. She had quite some major noise from yesterday to today. And as the 8 o'clock Mentorship Academy, we want to pass our sincerest condolences to the Mwanza family on their bereavement. Unfortunately, they lost their mom, grandmother, great grandmother, depending on who you're looking at. She was 97. So, on one hand, obviously, very sad and heartbroken about that. But on the other hand, a celebration. Anybody that goes past 70 these days, that's just a blessing. 80, wow, 90, standing ovation. And so she was a nonagerian, and that's quite rare, 97 years old. So, of course, that's really powerful. But at the same time, we pass our sincerest condolences as this team and pray strength for the Mwanza family during this trial that they're going through and this tragedy. That aside, I'll be here to do a presentation on behalf of the particular presentation this morning, which you can see is titled right there. And we're looking at the subject of nurturing. Well, the theme of life, which we're looking at, is basically physical and health, but we are tackling the topic of nurturing relationships that take care of physical and health. And that's what we're looking at this morning. And so before I go on, let me mention that we come here every day, working day. As long as it's a working day, we're here. Mondays, we have myself, yours truly. Yesterday was a holiday, so I was not presenting the agricultural show. On Tuesdays, we have Doc Sunshine Sylvia, whom I am standing in on behalf of. Wednesday, we have Mompreneurs. I'm not sure if they'll present tomorrow because normally it's what's her name, Sampa. And in this particular case, you know, Sampa is a Mwanza, although she's a Mrs. Chilambwe. So that again may mean she may not be able to attend because of the particular bereavement they have. Thursdays is Dr. Nelly with mindset, she does prosperity for your soul, specifically boardroom to bedroom. Then on Friday, we have New Image, who are our partners now. And today's presentation will kind of lean into Friday's New Image presentation as well. So anyway, so the theme we're looking at today is the wheel of life, physical and health. And like I said, I'm speaking on behalf of Dr. Sunshine Sylvia. Today's focus is nurturing relationships that protect physical well-being. And remember, health affects success, mindset, and life longevity. And this is our usual shout out to the Free Mentorship Academy, Monday to Friday empowerment, which we have been showing up for the last 5 years. That's right, 5 years, consistently delivering, consistently here, doing our thing. Now, the physical spoke in the wheel of life, which is the topic we're looking at today. We're going to be looking at the interconnectedness of well-being, okay, or wellness. Now, the wheel of life has 6 spokes, as you know very well. Physical and health undergirds the rest. So what you have to understand is that a healthy person is a wealthy person. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation. If you have no health, how then do you have the energy to create wealth? So it's so important that we look at that and really begin from that foundation. Remember, a weak physical spoke causes imbalance. If you're not healthy enough, you will have imbalances, and these are some of the issues you'll experience. You'll have a lot of fatigue. Fatigue will become something that will bother you a lot. And in this day and age, there is actually something that's even known as chronic fatigue syndrome. You ever believe in such a thing? Yes, chronic fatigue syndrome, where you're always tired. Like, you know, it doesn't matter. You're tired. You sleep, you wake up, you're tired. You know, wherever you have, you're tired. And most times your ability to focus and concentrate is quite low. Those are the people that you see dozing a lot in meetings. It's because they just don't have the energy. They're always fatigued. They're always tired. So this actually can be a challenge because then it will affect focus and certainly will bring about low productivity. So what causes chronic fatigue syndrome? One of the most common, of course, is lack of enough rest. And many times that can actually come from unsuspecting areas. One of the most interesting ones I learned years back when I got into this whole health and wellness is something called sleep apnea. You ever heard of sleep apnea? You probably haven't, or maybe you have. Well, sleep apnea, in very simple terms, is the inability to sleep well, because when you sleep, you choke. So there are a number of people who, when they sleep, they find themselves choking throughout their sleep. What does that mean? That means they get to a point where, as they breathe, the tongue goes back and blocks their airwave, air funnel, and so they're not able to really sleep well, and so they end up choking and waking up, and then they sleep again, and then when they're just about to go into deep sleep, they choke again because they can't breathe. They wake up, and they do that throughout the night. So they never really sink into deep sleep. And I'll tell you something, guys, deep sleep is so critical to your health and well-being, because it's during deep sleep that we experience what is actually detox. Our bodies go through detox when we sleep fully. Now, unfortunately, most people won't go, the ones who suffer from sleep apnea don't go into deep sleep. And so they always linger just around the first part of sleep cycle, which is basically, they don't go into delta, they just hang around the theta phase. And just when about to go into delta sleep, they wake up because they're not able to breathe. And so they do that throughout the night, like I say. And so when they wake up, they actually wake up tired. They actually haven't rested. And this, over a period of time, can actually form chronic fatigue syndrome. The other one, of course, is just the lack of sleep due to overly exerting oneself and minimizing their number of hours. Not very healthy at all, because you'll be shocked what that leads to. Low productivity is usually the result of these kind of situations. But let me tell you again about this, which is very serious. A lot of people don't know this. If you don't get enough sleep because you push yourself to do more and more work, did you know that your brain, actually, when you go into delta sleep, is the only time that it can flush out all the electrolyte, that is the electrolyte byproducts, which are caused by the firing away of synaptic ends. Between one nerve end and the other is actually a space, and in that space there is an electrolyte which allows for the conducting of electric signals between the two. Now, when these things fire up throughout the day, they accumulate wastes. These wastes can only be gotten rid of from the brain when the human is in deep sleep. That's delta phase sleep. When you're in deep sleep, then the body, literally, the brain literally takes a shower. That's the time that all these electrolytes are basically flushed out, and then, or the residue, and then the brain is fresh. What's interesting is, if those electrolytes don't get, the residues isn't gotten rid of, over the years, it starts to accumulate and builds up something called neuroplaque. I'm not making this up. Now, this neuroplaque, it is believed, is actually one of the symptoms or causes of later on onset of amnesia, dementia, and other such mental challenges in older age. Why? Because this buildup, this neuroplaque, doesn't go. There's no meds for it. Just imagine that, guys. So lack of proper rest. If, for example, I notice a lot of people who like to drink a lot. They will drink very late, wake up very early, drink very late, wake up very early. So they never really get enough sleep. And then it's also been proven that when you get into drunk sleep or sleep induced by drugs, you don't really go through the proper delta phase. It's artificial. And what that does in turn, it doesn't allow the brain to go into its proper natural state so that it can go through the cleansing process of getting rid of all that built up neural waste from the firing away of the neural ends or the synaptic edges. So that again will cause residue, which starts to build around the nerves and causes the so-called neural plaque, which over the years has been suggested as a big attribute towards dementia and amnesia. So guys, I mean, these things are not a joke. Eh? You really do need that rest. You really do need that sleep. That's the only time that your body is going to carry out proper detox. So rest enough, sleep enough. And remember, if you are always tired, your productivity is just not going to be there. It's better to sleep enough to make sure you rest off. And the idea of getting micro naps during the day is a good one, but you cannot substitute micro naps for deep delta sleep. And ideally, most people will go through 4 phases of delta sleep cycles to really be rested well. And on average, that's about 6 hours of sleep. So between 5 and 8 hours, depending on people, that's the ideal sleep time. And you really need that sleep. If you don't get that sleep, you get sleep debt, which, like I say, leads to this neural plaque buildup, which you really don't want. Now, like I say, according to Dr. Sylvia, wellness isn't optional, it's foundational, especially your health. Because what's the point of being wealthy but being super sick? What's the point of being wealthy but unable to appreciate your wealth because you're wheelchair bound or infirmed on the bed or things like that? So you really don't want to pay that kind of price. You want to make sure that you lead early enough a healthy lifestyle. So body stewardship reflects stewardship of overall. And this, when it comes to the physical and health, wheel or spoke of life, that's a very critical issue. So don't you ever ignore the idea of resting enough and being healthy. Now, we continue looking at mindset, lifestyle, and business impact. So remember, healthy thinking drives healthy living. Healthy thinking drives healthy living. So remember, good lifestyle equals mindset shift, not information overload. Now, that's another area again where we are so critical and so emphasized on, which is you need to ensure that if you want to see a good lifestyle, you ensure that there is a mindset shift towards taking care of your health and wellness. And not only that, you also want to embrace a growth mindset. Okay, so in your growth mindset, remember, rest, nutrition, and self-care are critical, especially the self-care part, without guilt, because sometimes we feel like we're overindulging ourselves. We shouldn't be doing that. I am here to tell you that's very critical to do. Now let's break that down. Rest, I've already broken that down. I've explained a lot. Nutrition, that's another one. And on nutrition, you'll be sad. It's sad to note that a lot of people are actually not so familiar with what is right eating and also taking of enough fluids, especially the older you grow. I'll tell you something about health and nutrition. When it comes to nutrition, we already know for a fact that you need to eat right. But what is eating right? Less carbs, especially refined carbohydrates like starch, more wholemeal, grain foods, or what you'd call mugaiwa, rolla, and the other stuff like, just making sure that your meals are more whole meal filled than refined meal, because refined meal is almost taking pure carbohydrates. It's starch. There's no benefit to the alimentary canal, and it's directly converts into sugar, which turns into glucose, which then turns into glycogen, which is then stored as fat. We already have, especially my age, enough fat on our body, which needs to be gotten rid of as a general rule of thumb. But it doesn't help if we're going to be eating the wrong food. So it's so important that we're critical on how we eat and what kind of food we're eating and how well we eat that and keep it to the right measure. We've been taught that generally as a rule, quarter of quarter of carbs, half of veg, and quarter of protein. The veg is very important because it helps your system flush through, but it depends again on your diet and your aim and what you're trying to achieve. But generally, as a rule of thumb, there's very little vegetables in most diets, and so even the alimentary canal and capacity to flush out food is actually hampered greatly. That in turn increases toxins in the body and can be very, very negative. And so again, self-care, what does that mean? learning to supplement where you cannot buy the food. And buy the, what am I saying? Learning to supplement where you cannot buy the natural food itself in its natural state. A lot of people, because of lifestyle and the kind of living we're doing nowadays, it's very difficult for most people to really do that, to eat well and eat healthy. So most times the next best option is to supplement and do supplementation on a very serious level, especially once you hit your 30s going forward. You really want to supplement as often as you can, because then we actually begin to become deficient in some areas and some nutritional input. And so the idea of being health conscious and taking the right food on a regular basis becomes absolutely critical and very important. So remember that you want to do the nutrition right. You want to supplement where you can on a regular basis. Your body is your first business office. You need to fuel it wisely. I love that. Your body is your first business office. Fuel it wisely. Because if this body breaks down, A, spares are really difficult to come by. I mean that. And B, where else will you operate from? This is the only office you have. This is the only tent you carry. This is the only tabernacle or house that you have. So you want to take good care of this house, because if you don't, you won't have a house and you won't be on this earth. So that's very important. So make sure, like I've said over and over, rest. Oh, by the way, let me tell you about the business assets that come with this office: rest, hydration, movement, and nutrition. I've spoken about nutrition. I've spoken about rest. I'm going to talk about hydration, and I'm going to talk about movement. So let's talk about movement. Movement means this moderate exercise. You really do need moderate exercise on a regular basis, and make sure you do that regularly, because that's one of the most effective ways, if you're exercising correctly, to lower and keep your blood pressure correct, and to just be generally healthier than when you don't exercise. And by the way, be very careful with what kind of exercise regimen you take on, and take into account your age, your size, and things of that nature, so that you get the right regimen. Many times, if you can work with a coach, work with a coach. If you can't work with a coach, there are a number of very, very powerful apps and programs available today online that can help you. I'm just taking on Tai Chi right now, which I'm going to be carrying with the rest of my life. It's pretty straightforward, but very, very effective as an exercise tool. Does wonders for you. So, but you can pick anything that works for you and work with that. And on the issue of hydration, take at least, I'm telling you, depending on your weight, but not less than 2 liters of water daily. I do water. I do this special tea. I know it's a funny looking cup, but Kai, I need to do my 1 liter. So I did already 500 mils earlier on. I'm finishing this 500 mils. That makes my 1 liter of tea daily. This is supplemented by also my intake of water. I drink a lot of water. I drink roughly 1.5 to 2 liters of water. So 2 plus 1, almost 3 liters a day. I'm very consistent with that. And what that's done, yes, I have blood pressure now and it's fairly high, but I am of the view that the intake of high amounts of fluids has been a lifesaver for me. I know a lot of people say, nah, but then they take you to the toilet all the time. Well, fancy a heart attack or a stroke, which would be better? Going to the toilet every, 1 hour, or having a stroke? See, so it's so important to think about so much about this hydration, because many people don't realize that when you don't have enough water in your body, or you're not hydrated enough, your blood is already thicker than usual. Remember, it's got less water, so it's thicker than usual. Now, what that does is that its likelihood to clot is higher if already you have atherosclerosis, which is a very common condition that most people at my age will have. What is atherosclerosis? The buildup and accumulation of calcium deposits, or what I call hardened fat, inside the arteries. So it narrows them, makes them very difficult for the blood to pass through. Now imagine you're taking enough water, so already your arteries are narrow, your blood is thick. The likelihood of then building up embolism, which is basically tumor blood clots all over the blood itself, becomes higher. It's those blood clots that are deadly. because those are the ones that go and essentially lodge themselves somewhere in your capillaries in the brain and could lead to either a stroke or worse, an aneurysm. Aneurysms almost always definitely kill people almost instantly, because an aneurysm, for those who don't know what that is, that's a burst capillary in the brain. And depending on what has burst, it can lead to massive hemorrhaging in the brain. And of course, for many people, instantly they pass out and go into a coma and never wake up. My uncle died that way a couple of months ago. He literally woke up one morning and then had an aneurysm and never woke up. He was in coma for about 10 days. Recently also, we lost a great colleague, Ndela Sichizio, just literally last week. Well, they had to switch off the machines, but he collapsed last week on Wednesday, if I'm not wrong, and has been in a coma for 12 days, and they had to switch off the machines. So we woke up to the sad news yesterday of his passing. But again, you will see that probably, based on my understanding, that was an aneurysm straight up, because that's what it does. So these are really serious. So taking enough water, I'm telling you, the hydration, high levels of hydration can be the difference between life and death. So let's move on. Checkups, supplements, and support. This is the fourth component I want to look at. Checkups, supplements, and support. Remember, strategic health actions are very important. So remember, normalize regular health audits, blood work, pressure, hormonal checks. And this is something you can do every year consistently, just to get an overall picture of what's going on. But I would recommend, if you hit 45, because these people are dying really young nowadays. All right, 40. If you hit 40, I seriously recommend that you invest in a BP machine. Do your regular health checks. You might find you're diabetic and you don't even know it because of this situation we're in nowadays. So make sure you do your regular health check your sugar levels, check your BP levels every day, so that you know where you are in terms of your well-being. I tell you, one day, true story, I woke up and felt extremely unwell. And I knew that this was not my normal hypertension or whatever it is. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think of hypertension because I didn't really used to check my pressure anymore. I stopped. And so when I felt really funny, I said, you know what, let me just check my blood pressure. I have that blood pressure machine there. When I checked my friends, my pressure was 230 over 160. Like crazy mad level. You know, if I had been measured like that in the hospital, they wouldn't even let me leave the hospital. They would have put me there and brought my BP under control. So technically, I could have had a stroke. Technically, I could have literally had an aneurysm with that level of pressure. So, you know, these things are real and they're not a joke. And so we need to be very, very vigilant when it comes to keeping track of our health and just knowing what's going on. So I check my blood pressure every morning. I have my blood pressure, drugs. And a lot of people, say, no, but I don't want to take drugs. Again, I'll say, which is cheaper, a stroke or the drugs? Which is more inconveniencing, the stroke or the drugs? If your pressure is high, don't mess with it. Take your drugs until when you can control your pressure fully through the right intervention. I'm doing that now. I take the supplementary, special herbal teas. I do that. And I'm going to be actually doing even more just to make sure. And supplementation is critical because it's the difference in life and death. Okay, so normalize health, regular health audits. Do your blood works, do your pressure, do your hormonal checks, and then be a relationship that asks, how's your health? Okay, that's very important. Supplements fill gaps in today's depleted nutrition. Our food is really losing its nutritional value, so supplement as often as you can. On Friday, we have New Image. New Image is a very powerful company that provides profound supplements, and obviously you can be able to take advantage. I can also tell you there's a lot of natural remedies that can work for diabetes, they can work for BP, very powerful herbal remedies. You just need to consult correctly and they will guide you. These things are powerful, I won't lie. Then remember also your multivitamins in terms of your supplementation, your omega-3s, that's your fats, your vitamin D for your calcium levels, and then magnesium and many, many other supplements that you need on a regular basis, just to ensure that you're on top shape when it comes to your health. And then remember, partner, we like I said, we partnered with New Image for lifestyle supporting products. And last but not least, relationships and call to action, what I call a practical next step, which Dr. Sunshine talked about. They're basically, a couple of items. Number one, build a circle that prioritizes health, which I talked about again. Hydration, walking, sleep. This is very important. And let that circle be one of those circles that encourages you on a regular basis. Secondly, action steps, book a medical health checkup this week. If you're watching this and you're looking at this and listening and it's really hitting home, make sure you do that, because really you can't afford to drop dead or get sick or get a stroke. And then spark a lifestyle conversation with someone where you look at these issues I just raised. And then try one new habit or supplement. This is where, again, you can get in touch with Dr. Sunshine's team, and make sure you also join the Mindset Change program. We've got a new cohort and presentation going on the 12th to the 14th. You can call, just simply text, and we'll give you the details there. And remember, consistency is greater than perfection. So you don't want to wait and do everything perfectly. That doesn't work. Just be consistent. Whatever little you do, do it consistently. And that, my friend, will make a huge difference for you. And so on this note, I want to thank you all on behalf of Dr. Sunshine for being part of the call this morning. Make sure you follow what has been indicated. Two imperative things. Number one, book a medical checkup today. Number two, get on the Mindset Change program by Dr. Sunshine and team. On that note, I want to thank you guys and have a great day, and catch you tomorrow. Well, I'm not sure. I'll find out if they'll be on tomorrow, but if they are not, then you will find me. I will do a presentation on the series I've been running with so far, which is bootstrapping. You have a great day, and God bless you guys.